is Irene from Irene's Entropy. Thanks for being here.
Yes, it is lovely to be here in this beautiful studio.
Tell us a little something about you. Yeah,
I got a lot of something.
It's such it's super hard to start, and I always start that way with like, give us a little intro.
Yeah,
and it's such like I think I just want like a brief like.
I think
some background.
My intro and what people are most usually interested in is the fact that I didn't start my life wanting to be a musician. I didn't start my life as Irene. I didn't start my life thinking that I would ever be doing anything that I'm doing today. I was born into a very Orthodox Mormon family, and my entire life was set up so that I would live that life and follow certain patterns. I was I followed a strict regimen as a child. I was abusive to myself from a very young age, mentally, eventually physically, sexual abuse. My story starts very dark, and I'm very open about that. And I think it's important for people to understand that I am where I am because I came from such darkness. And I eventually, when I was 19, went through the Mormon temple ceremony where you receive a new name. And this new name is supposed to be a secret. You're never supposed to share it with anyone. As a woman, you only share it with your future husband because he calls you forth. You know, it's almost as if it's ownership. And so Irene was a secret identity for me that for me, it represented what was supposed to be the best parts of me. It was the holy part of me. It was a name that literally was a key that let me cross into heaven whenever I died in the Mormon belief system. And so I served a Mormon mission. I lived in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. I went through lots of trauma there, lots of PTSD. And when I came home, I left shortly after my mission in a very traumatic way. I became estranged from my family, my friends. I showed up to my husband, Greg. I showed up to his house with nothing but my name and 2 suitcases and started life over. And from there, eventually, as I started healing, I decided to take the name Irene, which to me represented chains. It represented secrecy. It represented an identity that was supposed to remain hidden. And I thought that if I could take this identity and turn it into something that I was proud of, that I didn't want to be a secret, that, I don't know, I just thought maybe I could make something of myself. Mm-hmm. And so I did. I just started calling myself Irene, casually, almost kind of making fun of myself of like, oh, like this name. And then I started writing music. And then I started referring to myself as Irene as I was writing the music. Mm. And I started carefully talking about myself in third person. Oh, we'll take Irene as this character through this journey as a reflection of myself. And as it kept going, I realized that it's not third person. Mm-hmm. I was literally writing music about myself. And eventually it became Irene's Entropy, which is a whole nother part of my story. Part of how I decided to empower myself was going to school and to become an engineer. I now work in aerospace, and it has all worked out beautifully. And Entropy came from that part of my studies.
Cool.
So Irene was slowly built into what is now a representation, I think, of the parts of me that came from trauma and decided to take control of my life and create an identity that I was proud of. I'm so proud to be Irene. And when I stand at my music concerts and I say, I am Irene and this is Irene's Entropy, it is the most spiritual experience for me because it is something that I have built with people that I love.
Oh my God.
Yeah. That's my intro of why I'm Irene and why this is Irene's Entropy, I guess.
I love that. Do you go by Irene like fully now, or in your like day-to-day personal relationships?
You know, at work I am by my birth name, which I do not say ever on my social media or my podcast. So if you've come here to learn my birth name, you will not.
You won't find it.
This
here.
is not the day. Yeah. But I think my best friends and my husband call me Irene more than they call me by my birth name now. It has really taken over my identity. And unless it's some legal reason why I'm using it, Irene is really, it's probably a good 70-30. 70 Irene.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that.
Does that feel weird? Like having Irene be the main name?
No, not anymore. It used to, because I felt silly. I felt like it was like I was faking something. But now, all these years later, after I truly have just embodied everything that Irene is, I feel more empowered when I'm called Irene, and I like it.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's fucking sick.
I love that. I love that.
Thank you.
Cool. So do you want to talk about what you're working on right now?
Yeah. Well, let's go back a little bit to the previous album I released and what my music contacts were there, because that's how we met.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We can talk about that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I actually was trying to figure out where we did meet.
Yeah, that's where I was going as well.
On my way here, I don't remember. Was it in Ely?
I think it was at Clint's.
At Clint's?
Clint's, no, she wasn't at Clint's. It was at Ely. At the Cats.
Was it at Cats? Or was
Cats Billiards.
So where did we all stay when we were all in Ely? Where did you guys stay? When you guys were at Snowbank? Because I think that's when all me and the guys were at
Snowbank.
Ben's.
We met at Snowbank. But you were also at Cats Billiards Blues, because you sang.
I was there that
You sang
whole-
House of the Rising Sun, and I was like, God
Yeah,
damn.
Clint's too.
I don't know what Clint's is,
No,
bro.
she-
That bar way up at the end of the Echo Trail.
No, she wasn't. That was Jake, Brody, and
Oh,
Ben.
I was there.
Oh, damn.
I didn't know it was called Clint's.
My memory fails me.
So, that's so real. That's like small. It was small and like not really a real
Small
stage.
crowded bar, not a stage, just a corner of a
That
bar.
was where I met you. That's so real. Wow. Cool. Well, it was a very like easy connection with you and Greg both. And then I think that weekend in Ely was that a different time, or was that the same?
Nope, that was
weekend?
all we played. We played at Clint's Bar on the Echo Trail. Everyone listening, if you're in the North Boundary Waters, go visit the Echo Trail Tavern. So Clint's Bar, and then we played at Cats Billiard Blues, and then up at Snowbank.
Yeah. Yep.
All in one weekend.
Yeah. That was also the Blueberry Fest weekend.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Was that last summer then? Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool.
So it was a year ago.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Now we're here on the same. Okay.
I knew nothing about you other than sometimes you played with Jake and Brody, and then I heard you sing House of the Rising Sun, and I was like, oh my God, I don't know what I need to do, but I want to know this girl.
Oh my God. Okay, I felt the same way about you. Actually, Pam, Brody's mom, that's who I was sitting with at Clint's, and that's where I learned things about you. Like I knew about you because the guys talked about you, and like I knew that they were working with you, but I didn't know that you were an ex-Mormon until like after I had heard your music. So it was cool to like put context to that.
Yeah, for sure. So and going back, that's really the origin of where my music journey started. So back home, I started a band with my husband. He plays the bass, and then another guitarist and drummer. And we just started fooling around in the basement, and that's where I really started writing my songs about my story. But then as I was working on that album, there was so much overflow of emotion. I was writing so many other songs. And I went up to Minnesota on vacation and met Jake and Brody of Woodzen. Kings, yes. Met them. They were actually just goobers. They were dock boys. And I was playing my acoustic guitar up in the lobby of this cabin, and one of them was like taking out trash or something, or they came in, they were like, can I bring my friend and can we play music with you? And I was like, oh, these guys are just hitting on me. Fine. Sure.
Which one was it? Do you remember?
It was Jake.
Cool. Good to know.
It was totally Jake. And so then he brings in Brody, and they started playing, and I was like, holy shit, okay, let's see if they can do this. And then I started playing my originals, and they started playing along, and it was magical. We ended up playing for 6 hours into the night, like midnight. They didn't shut the place down. The fishermen came off the lake and everyone was there. This old guy came in, dumped out a bag of harmonicas and was just playing a harmonica with us. We started some blues riffs and it was magical. And we went back the next night or maybe 2 nights later and we did it again. Just played, brought the small, we brought the fucking house down. Well, the house was like, I don't
Smaller
know,
than
20,
this room,
30
yeah.
people. But it was magical. It was one of those moments that you can't recreate. And so meeting them, I knew that I had to pursue doing something with them. And so we went back home to Illinois, and I kept pestering Jake, being like, will you play on these demos of mine? Will you? And eventually he and Brody decided that they would come down. We did a show together. And then a couple months later, I said, I got 11 songs. I'm going to call this album High Water. They came on New Year's Day, and we had 4 days, and we cut the whole record in 4 days.
Very cool.
And High Water was a beautiful experience. I wouldn't have wanted my first record to have been created with anyone else. It was a beautiful, beautiful experience. So High Water is out there, and people listening to this, you can go hear it. It's a very Americana, rock blues-esque singer-songwriter vibe. I don't know how else to describe it.
I think you just really said it. Like,
yeah,
that makes sense to me.
And then moving past that album, I started to really focus on the album that I'm about to put out now. The first single comes out this month in September.
Oh, cool. Oh, exciting.
Yeah. And this album is just a purely rock and roll, anything from Paramore vibe to Rage Against the Machine, just pure rock and roll. And it really starts with the beginning of my story, which is running away from trauma and being a victim, and goes through the stages of loneliness, guilt, and shame, and then anger and gaslighting and self-destruction, and then burning yourself to the ground, starting over, and empowering yourself. And it ends in a beautiful, beautiful space. The very last song on the album is the title track, Irene's Entropy. And I feel like it sets up the rest of my career, because while High Water was like a beautiful prologue, this album is the first foundational chapter of everything I want to do with my life.
Wow, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. How long have you been working on this new record now?
4 years.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And when did High Water come out?
A year and a half ago.
Okay,
April of 2022.
cool.
Yeah.
A lot of my interest in your story is because of my own. I'm not an ex-Mormon, but I grew up in a really hardcore, non-denominational Christian church, evangelical. And I also changed my name. I went by Abby my whole life, and now a lot of my friends still call me Abby, but I love the idea of feeling more empowered and feeling more like myself when I'm called Abrienne, because it's this new identity that I've created and that I've worked so hard to become.
Yeah.
Oh, I just love, I love you. I love your music. I resonate so hard. I was really wondering, because you said that, you mentioned a spiritual moment that you had. Maybe it was with Jake and Brody, but I'm wondering, being an ex-Mormon, was there some kind of transition to another idea of not religion, but some kind of belief system?
Yeah, and I'll answer this simply in that I have decided personally that I will never speak of my religious beliefs. on any form of social media because I do think that it is so personal and private. And I have a lot of people following me, waiting for me to answer that question, that message me, asking me, oh, I've left Mormonism, or I've left this, or where do I go?
Yeah.
What is my next step? And I prefer to hold back on that because it's not my space to influence.
Yeah.
I am here to influence people to not be the victims of their own abuse. And wherever that abuse came from, many people that follow me received an abuse from religion or family that used religion as a tool.
Yeah.
And Irene's Entropy is here to empower other people. It is not here to direct or guide in a spiritual way. And so I reserve my answer to that question for that reason.
I respect that. That's beautiful. I think too now, because we should talk about the Instagram too. Like you blew up all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Now there's you have an audience, like a big one.
I had like 3,000 followers, and then I decided, because I had like vaguely talked about my past or, through my music, but I decided, okay, I'm going to sit down in front of a camera and I'm just going to record my story. And I did it in an 18-part series. And for whatever reason, the internet algorithm blew it up. I had like 3 million views on one where I'm talking about coming home from my mission from Honduras. And all of a sudden, the follows just skyrocketed up to, I think it's like 66,000 followers on Instagram now and like 12,000 on TikTok. And the interesting thing is that it was all women. 80% of my 66,000 followers are women. And I started receiving hundreds of messages from people all over the world telling me their stories of how they escaped certain religions or traumatic families or abuse and how they related to my story. And it was a bit overwhelming at first, but also proof to me that, this works. Being authentic, because before I was authentic, but I would just share pieces and I wouldn't want, I wasn't comfortable putting my entire narrative out there. But the second I was vulnerable and open enough to be honest with myself and then tell my story, the connection happened. And that has been proof to me as I've been going that I've still struggled with, okay, now I have all of these followers. And so now I need to concentrate on my brand and making sure that I'm giving them the content that they need. And, people need me now. And all of these thoughts sometimes overwhelm me. And then I come back to the thought of, I spent a lot of time rebuilding myself and becoming Irene. All I need to do is share with people how I have lived my journey. And that's all I can do. People can take that and they can create their own journeys, but I'm not here to tell anyone what to do with their life. I'm just here to share my story. So it's been a struggle of, the whole blow up and it's less than 100,000 people. It's not like it's insane, but it is different. Yeah. And it puts things into a different perspective. Yeah. But it's cool.
It is cool. I feel like so much of healing is talking it out and like sharing and finding people that resonate and people that will just listen. Do you know where the line is between like talking about it and then talking about it too much or like sitting in it too much or staying in that like victim mentality?
Yeah. So I run something called the Identity Project.
Yes, I want to talk about that so bad.
Oh, let's do it. Perfect segue. So I run something called the Identity Project. And it started as just this thought that, sharing is what opens the floodgates. It opens the opportunity for there to even be healing. Mm-hmm. And so I started messaging women all over the internet. And mind you, I had barely any followers at all. No one knew who I was. And I started messaging women saying, hi, I've seen on your account that you struggle with this trauma. Mostly I was contacting ex-Mormon women because that's what I was so interested in, was the trauma of other people that came from my experience. And most people ignored me, didn't answer me back, but some women said, yeah, I'll write a letter. I was asking women to write letters about their trauma and had the idea that I would take letters and written word and turn it into art, that someone with a different perspective could read their trauma and then use their own experience and turn it into art. And so I contacted an artist who is also ex-Mormon. His name is Sage. He's from Salt Lake City area. Beautiful, wonderful artist. You guys can check his account out on the Identity Project, which is on Instagram, ie.theidentityproject. And then the letters started coming in, and I would read them, and I would cry. I would sit with them because I was reading reflections of myself. Mm. And then Sage started doing the art, and it started picking up a bit. And now we have 22 letters, but I think there's over 100 women that have offered to participate. It often takes months to even get a letter in. I think that it can be a really painful process for people. But yeah, so as I read these letters, your original question before was, where is that line? And when is it too much? And I have watched some women who have written letters that seem to be writing the letter from a place of wanting to move on and wanting to experience their emotions so that they can find themselves in a better place. And then I've seen other women write letters that just write them, and then, you know, I follow them back on Instagram and I watch, and they just stay there, and I don't see growth. And while I'm not judging any of them for their experiences and what they're doing, I have started noticing patterns in the mentality that it takes to go from victim mentality and recognize it as, I was a victim because of this experience, but this is what I can do to change parts of myself to move on. And then I've seen others that say, I'm a victim, and I will always be a victim because this is the way that I think of myself. It all comes from the perspective of how you think of yourself. And some people get caught up in why others make them a victim. But it's the ones that can internally say, I can change this about me. And those are the people that usually move on and find themselves in a different landscape of thought.
Yeah. You had mentioned earlier something along the lines of, like, you don't think that you would be where you are if you hadn't come from such darkness. I definitely resonate with that to some extent. But also, like, we're bitter, right? Like, we're pissed, right?
Yeah. So now I'll bring in one of the songs that'll be on the album. It says, pour the wine, make it blood red, and let me taste the bitterness. I've never known another flavor. Habitual pain is meat I savor. And it's a song about feeling that bitterness. And I've also come to realize that bitterness is quite different from anger. And I'll go into that in a little bit. But so in this song, the chorus says, Old habits die hard, they're thick as mud, and I'm still here swimming in it. How long till I reach my limit? And I feel like the bitterness does that. It creates this consistency of almost like mud in our brains that we try to swim through, and we get exhausted with ourselves because we're creating an environment where we're swimming in just such inconsistency. You go in circles over and over again. You can't get anywhere. And a lot of times it's because we can't let go. Mm-hmm. I say that for me. I get stuck because I can't let go. I can't let go of things that used to be my survival mechanisms in my past. I can't let go because they were things that kept me safe in my trauma, but now there's no need for them. So for me, that's where I find my bitterness, and it's usually a bitterness towards myself. But anger, I have found, anger is different than bitterness because anger can be very healthy. It's what drives us to make something of ourselves. I write my anger. I sing my anger. Some people dance their anger. Some people, march it in the streets, vote it. But anger has changed history. Bitterness often leads to other things like jealousy, self-hatred, and it tears us apart from the inside out. But I have come to really appreciate and love what anger has done in my life.
Wow. So well said.
Thank you.
Do you feel like we talked about talking about things and communicating with other people as a way of healing? How is music a healer for you, or how does writing and performing intertwine with the healing journey for you?
I almost think it is the music. I've always loved music, like any artist. I'm sure every artist that has ever sat here in this chair and told you, music saved my life. Music opened up parts of me that no one else could see, and that rings true for me as well. But music gives me the opportunity to sit down and slow down and have internal reflection. I have severe ADHD problems. I, from my trauma and my childhood of always trying to survive, I was the peacemaker in my home. I always had to make everyone happy. I always had to make sure that my dad wasn't angry and my mom wasn't upset, and that my mom had friends, and that my siblings were good at school. And I was everywhere. Even if they didn't know it, flighty. I was just one thing to the next, and how can I convert this person to Mormonism, and how can I baptize this person, and that, I need to be doing this, and I'm failing here, and I was everywhere all at once. And I didn't discover songwriting until after I had left, but songwriting creates the opportunity where I sit down with myself and I slow down enough to process my emotions. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I won't. What's crazy is in my songwriting, I will write a song that is beautiful and I love it, but I haven't actually processed it, and I won't go through what I wrote that song about for another year or two. I feel like a lot of people, many people write songs about their past experiences, and I write songs almost every time that end up being an experience of my future.
Wow.
It's like I'm trying to tell myself something. Yeah. But I think it's because the rest of me hasn't caught up to it, because I am so everywhere all at once and just trying to do a million things. I don't realize that it's a lesson I need to learn. Until it's later, and I'm so distraught. And then I listen to the song and I realize, you idiot, you already thought through that. You already wrote a whole song about it. You should just listen to yourself. Yeah. So is that your experience? I mean, you do songwriting.
Yeah. I guess my follow-up question here was gonna be if you ever don't write, like if you aren't quite ready to process or like don't want to dive in too deep, because I'm the same way. If I'm that's really the only way that I process too, is to like actually like to really dive in, is to, a lot of times when I'm writing a song, if I know what I want to write about, I'll journal about it first.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's easier than other times. Like there were months of my life recently that I didn't write because I didn't want to think about any of it. Like I didn't want to dive in. And so writing is hard for me in that aspect because I feel like I have to like let go.
Yeah.
And that's like not really my thing.
Yep. Yeah. Totally. It even has gotten to the point sometimes where like I'll be so internally just a mess. And I remember one time I asked Greg, I was just like, make me angry. Make me angry. And I was like screaming at him because I had so many internal emotions and I couldn't let go. And he would say something and I'd be like, why are you telling me this? And he'd be like, you told me to make you angry. And then I'll write like one of the greatest songs of my entire life. And that's not to say that all of my songs come from internal, you know, fighting or that much emotional trauma, but that's to say that yes, many times it's because I'm not ready to let go, and I'll fight to the bitter end over clinging to some part of myself, and then finally there is the recognition of I need to let go. I haven't written a full complete song in a really long time, which I'm realizing now is probably an internal reflection on myself. This is real life moment processing right here, everybody.
Beautiful. That's what the pod is for.
I haven't written a full song in a long time. All of my concentration has been on finishing this studio album, and it's been a slow process because my band back at home only has time to do one practice a week. And if we don't do practice, then we're only in the studio once a week. And it's been a very long process. And all of me has been concerned about finishing it in a timely manner, but also giving it everything it needs musically to represent what I'm doing. I also am working on projects for this album with a symphonic orchestra composer out in New York.
Cool.
We're doing lots of different things on this album. It's more of a rock opera because it does tell a story. And so there's so many different narrative aspects that I need to have in place. And so I haven't done much songwriting lately, but everything has just been finishing this album. And it's kind of old now. It's all stuff that, like, for the most part, I've processed and I've gone through, but I need to do some new songwriting. That's what I'm realizing.
All right.
Yeah.
I also, I should have asked about, your music background. Were you playing guitar as a kid?
No.
Were you singing as a kid? No.
Oh, yeah. Singing as a kid, yeah. Always loved to sing. I wouldn't say that I was always a great singer. I remember, my siblings would, ask me to stop or, tell me that I wasn't very good. And my mom would be like, shh, just let her do her thing, And I was determined. If that's one thing that's been true throughout my life, I'm always determined to prove people wrong or to prove something, which is another defense mechanism. But so I remember in the shower just singing until I would lose my voice over and over, just practicing, sliding my voice through different notes. And I was drum major for the band in high school. I played French horn. I had a distaste for choir. because I didn't want to be, just singing beautiful, glorious music and with a group. I wanted to be a rock star. Yeah. But I didn't know how to play guitar. I knew how to play piano. And that changed when Greg got me a guitar when I first moved in. So I had 2 suitcases, and he bought me a guitar. And I learned how to play guitar literally maybe a year or 2 before High Water came out.
Cool.
I'm still very new
Yeah.
to the instrument.
Cool.
But I always wrote. I always wrote poetry. That's probably my strength, is that I might not be the best guitar player, and I might not have the best voice, but the storytelling aspect and the power behind being raw and vulnerable is something that is a strength of mine in my music.
I love that. So I noticed that you recently were on the road too, right? You've been traveling for some shows. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, the Testimony tour. That was a dream of mine, to be able to perform this upcoming album and these songs for ex-Mormons. And so generally the crowd was ex-Mormon population, and there were others. We were out in Colorado, Utah, Idaho, and those shows were very, very powerful. And the people there brought their vulnerability. It was almost more of an emotional therapeutic session of me starting in the darkness in the beginning and with all of that turmoil, and like literally song 2, just tears streaming down faces, and me wondering, are we even going to be able to make it through? Like, is it just going to be too much? Like, people are just going to be crying so much that we can't even make it through. But I kept going, and eventually it got towards like the laughter and talking about the trauma. And by the time we got to the end, just beautiful conversations with everyone about where they're at in their trauma. And it was also, it's beautiful, and it's also so hard because you have to balance as an artist. I'm doing all of these wonderful shows and connecting with wonderful people, but is this the path that is going to make me the most successful in, I lost so much money going out there and doing all of this.
Sure.
Maybe I made enough money back to pay for the venues and some gas, but in general, as an artist, I am at a point where I can't keep doing testimony tours. Irene's Entropy is not just a band. It's not just music. It is a business. I own it as an LLC. And my dream for Irene's Entropy is that I partner with other companies. Other people might partner with the Salvation Army or some other business and for different causes. But for me, I would want Irene's Entropy to be something that corporate people partner with. And I go in and I'm able to do shows and empower women, empower people to, perform their best, not just at their job, but in their everyday life. And start workshops and work with different therapists and work with STEM. I'm in engineering. I would love to do shows where I'm going and talking to girls that, want to be a rocket scientist. It's cool because as Irene's Entropy, I had a girl message me the other day from, I think she was from Nicaragua, but she said, "You've inspired me to go back to school. I'm going to become an engineer. Like, I'm in school now. Thank you so much. And I'm following my dream." And that is the piece that I know Irene's Entropy can help better the world by inspiring others to take hold of their identity and to better themselves, their community, their families, all of it. And it's not just music. It's the connection, and it's something I'm building. But I'm in the process right now of making those connections with different companies and trying to partner with others to to show that Irene's Entropy is more than just music. And I think, if anything, the testimony tour was proof to me in that I could spend the rest of my life setting up shows in that setting. And it is one of the best parts of getting to be an artist. I do not regret ever having moments of human connection and vulnerability with people at my shows. But I know that I can take Irene's Entropy and do something larger than just music.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned success. You said the word success somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. Will you tell us how you define success?
You're the second person to ask me that. The first person that asked me was a producer that I had gone to ask if he would produce my album. And he apparently, had some big stuff that he had worked on. And he walked in and he was a highfalutin city guy. And he told me things of like how he could get me on the radio and that he could do this and this with my music. And then he ended up tearing apart my record and saying that, this is boring and you need to start this over. And it was, but he looked at me and he said, well, what do you want? Mm-hmm. What is success? And my band was all sitting around me. And the pressure was on for me to say like, oh, well, success is, get me in front of this many thousands of people, get me on the radio, get me this. Mm-hmm. And my answer then would be the same now as success to me is telling my story, but showcasing the importance of how I built my identity. The tagline that I use now is that Irene's Entropy can help you to see that you don't need to be the victim of your own abuse. And whatever way I need to build that so that that message touches as many people as possible, that will be success to me. If that's my band and my music blows up and I'm, at Glastonbury or whatever festival singing and giving my message, great. Maybe I make it into a theatrical production and it's something that's more of a theater thing. Maybe it's that I do enter the corporate world and that I do partner with businesses and I am building a connected group of people that all have this same mindset of not being the victim of your own abuse, of empowering yourself and therefore empowering your community. Whatever road that takes, I'm ready to take it. I just know that I will find success as long as I am being true and authentic to myself and spreading that message.
Cool. Damn.
I'm finding some things here. Like I did not come in with a script of like, this is, thank you. I am finding so many truths because I have nothing to prove, only to share.
That's right.
That tagline.
Interesting how that works. Cool. That all sounds so exciting and beautiful and like what a mission. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, like if you want, like, my God,
don't think I am not here, everyone, because when I heard Brienne sing House of the Rising Sun a year and a half ago, and I thought, God damn, if I ever have enough money to go on a big worldwide tour, that woman will be singing on the stage. Shit. You will be leading the people of all of the singing in the back. Yeah.
Cool.
No, I'd
be happy to be there.
Yeah. I'm so impressed by you, girl.
Oh my gosh.
Your vocals
Thank you.
Gorgeous.
That means a lot because you too. Like, holy shit. Let's talk about your sound too. Like, because you have a special, like, gritty, raspy thing going on.
Yeah.
Do you is that just what comes out, or are you intentional about that, or did you like make some steps to get there?
Yeah, I totally developed that. I did not. If you knew me growing up, anything I sang was country twang. Twang.
Whoa.
Of the twangiest twang.
Whoa.
And I think Brandy Carlisle.
Yes, I've been thinking about her all day. Yeah.
Brandy Carlisle changed my life. I will meet that woman one day. I will sing on a stage with her. I don't know when and I don't know how, but I will. Her storytelling aspect and the way that she's able to croon certain notes, but then also gets raspy in some of it. Mm-hmm. And when I first got that guitar, Brandy Carlisle was the first thing that I learned to play on the guitar. And I was just trying to replicate what I felt when I listened to her. And then that led into, some of my other favorite artists are Chris Cornell, who is a total just, if you listen to, Soundgarden and Temple of the Dog and Audio Slave and all of that are just killer stuff. But I loved his solo stuff of him and an acoustic guitar.
Absolutely. Oh my God, yeah.
And the rasp that he can reach. Hayley Williams is another, she doesn't do rasp, but her vocals just... the power behind it. And I just started playing with different sounds. And at first the rasp was very harmful. Like I over rasped so much and was damaging my vocal cords. Mm-hmm. And I've had to really develop how I'm singing so that I can bring it out at certain times and that it is my signature, move, I guess. But how I sound now, 5 years ago, you would have been like, what? You would not know. Yeah, that was me.
Cool. Do you want to talk about like the story of your new single coming out?
Yeah.
Like explain maybe what it's about and... Yeah, okay.
So this single is called Identity. And I feel as though it's very important that it's the first single that comes out because that's the premise that all of this is built on. My story is different because I was ripped away from my entire past, a paradigm shift, and Irene was born. It literally a new identity, or rather an old identity that I was making new. And so this album is the story of how I came to accept and become empowered from that identity. It's Irene's birth story. And so Identity is a song about one of the first things that happens whenever you decide that you want a new identity, and that is pain, because you have to let go. And I compare it to being an addict, because if you've ever had an addiction to any physical substance or know someone that has, it's very traumatizing because you can want so badly to let go. But there are certain things in you that just, you don't even realize you keep falling backwards. And the chorus says, what do you do when you realize you're an addict, ripped away from the needle inside your veins? I spent my whole life trying to break through the haze, but the poison remains. For me, when I left Mormonism, when I left my family, I found that I was addicted to things like obedience, shame, self-hatred, guilt. I was addicted to the things that made me feel extreme emotions, because I lived in a world where extreme emotions meant that you were making progress, which was detrimental to the relationships that I was forming around me. And so this feeling of wanting so badly to start over, so badly to truly become someone new, but always falling back on old habits that were the protective mechanisms that kept me safe in my old life. They were just addictions now that I constantly was having withdrawals. So, and in the music video, you see me with this perfect family and a perfect life, and everything is happy. And all of a sudden I realize I'm taking these pills every morning, and then I realize what's actually in them. But if you want to take a quick break, and we will watch it, and then we'll come back and do some commentary on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Such a good idea.
We're back. We just watched it.
The Thing.
My first thought is like, when I was a kid, I listened to Seether and Evanescence and that energy, and that's like the instrumental behind you is giving that so hard, and I love that. First of all, I have to say that.
Love that.
Thank you. Whoa, that was a lot. I think in the beginning I was looking at watching the story more than I was listening to the words, but by the end, obviously the story was very clear. I liked how once you had stopped taking the pill, that everything was gray and like not as warm or vibrant or saturated, and then how the last second where you open the door. Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, because it all I guess for those of you that haven't seen it, September 29th, it will come out. So the premise behind this is that it is a story that begins. So the door opens and you see that little hint of whatever it is behind it. That's where the next music video takes place. And
cool.
And we've already filmed that.
Oh, shut up. Can I see it?
I don't have it yet.
Such a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know. I don't have it yet. The film team is working on putting it together. We actually just spent a lot of time when we were out west making sure that we were getting footage for it.
Cool.
So, and other things along the way. And I have studios booked into next month and
Hater.
yeah. So I have studios booked into next month, and then parts of that video have already been filmed, but then we're bringing in other characters that will finish in October, and then in November we've got stuff, and like I've written a whole script. It truly is a theatrical production behind this story, and it is supposed to be a cliffhanger at each one. And so.
That is brilliant. Oh my God. All of it. The detail and like the long game that you're playing is so cool too. Like to have an idea and then to know what your next steps are afterwards is huge.
Well, it's been 4 years. I mean, that's the other thing is it's developed into, I know exactly what I want to show people. And that's why I keep coming back to, this is more than music. This is showing people that you do not have to be the victim of your own abuse. There is a story here that is within all of us. And at the end of this, there is so much to be found in creating and being confident in your own identity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that... I'm so happy you got to see that. Jake and Brody haven't even seen it yet, actually. And they're in it.
Okay, I didn't even see Jake. Were they just part of the group?
They were part of the school group.
I noticed Peter for sure with his little hat.
Yeah. And Ben,
and Ben obviously.
I tried so hard to get, I didn't know anyone that was the right age to like play my brother in the music video. And I had the two sisters. And then all of a sudden Woodzen was there and I was like, Ben.
The way that you picked Ben out of all, that's so funny.
I was like, Ben, you're up.
You're up.
And the rest of the group like had to leave for a show, and we made Ben stay to finish the filming. And then we had to get him to the show late.
Oh my God, what a guy.
Oh, I know. Yeah, he's a trooper.
That's so funny.
But yeah, you'll notice now so when this comes out, watch it again, listen to the lyrics, and then go back and watch Persephone 2 and 3, the other music videos.
Yeah.
Because you will see links, even though they're two completely separate storylines.
Wow. Links
and Easter eggs have been placed.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and will be placed in each music video so that as you're putting stuff together, it is a timeline of stories that are connecting.
Cool. That is very like Taylor Swift of you.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
You know how she does that?
Yeah, she does. Yeah.
And all of her fans are like, fucking crazy about it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's fun. It's a fun little aspect.
If I could borrow some of that, if I could take some of that energy from the Swifties, yeah, that'd be great.
Was there anything in the video that you saw that you wanted to talk about or no?
You kind of covered it all.
Yeah.
Got very similar sentiments.
Yeah.
Just a very good execution.
Well done. Yeah. Yeah. I'm such a sucker for the temperature change of a photo or video. I think that's like it changes how it feels.
The whole filming of it it's very 90s. The way that it cuts and does certain things or the camera shakes, it's like 90s music videos, which I love because like I am like 90s music genre person.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And my film team is so awesome because as we're going into other videos, like each video is filmed in a different different taste, a different theme. I don't know what the correct word would be.
Flavor.
Yeah.
Flavor is the word.
Yeah.
Do you have like a creative director or like anything like that when it comes to making projects like this, or is it you? Like, who did this? Who made that?
I am.
That's so cool. It's fucking. Yeah. That's so cool. So cool.
I would say that. So I write everything with Greg, my husband, and a lot of times he'll journal madly. And then we'll talk about, his ideas. And at the end of the day, I'll write the script. He takes care of all of the logistics, making sure that, that there was a door in the middle of the street. Well, it's because he, built and framed the door and had it all ready to go. We beat it up. We painted it red. And there's other sets where like he's building false walls and stuff that I won't give anything away. But yeah so, and then I call everyone and all my friends and I'm like, hey, we're doing this. Will you please show up? I need you to be here at this time. And then the film team themselves creatively are great about saying, okay, this shot would be awesome.
Okay. Cool.
And then sometimes I'm the one saying, Phil, I need you to come around and get it from this angle because I'm going to make, I'm going to cry or I'm going to have this facial expression. I need this to be the exact same. And we keep that throughout. So like that shot where I get up out of the bed, the first round, you'll have to go back and watch. We've repeated stuff like that in future music videos because all of this is a reflection of everything going on in my mind. And we are habitual creatures, but I myself, as I'm going through this music video series, am repeating the same patterns. But eventually you'll see me starting to break through them and act differently. So
wow, very cool. I just remembered the very beginning where you're sitting in like a very white space. Will you talk about that? Is that because then the next thing is that you wake up, right? So is it like
so you'll see that in a
okay.
future music video. So that's one of the ones that we've already filmed half of, and it comes back to that. But I will for the listeners here, I will say that white space represents being inside my own mind. Yeah.
Cool. Fuck.
Yeah.
I feel like I just feel lucky to see all this and hear all this, and
it's like getting the inside scoop of like some universe.
Yeah.
Before it's like really taking off.
Yeah. This, like I said, this is the first single, and from here, this is everything we're putting our money into, putting my time into, is making this truly a universe.
Yeah, there's depth to it. Like you could almost have a Wikipedia with like lore.
With lore, yeah. No, absolutely.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. And part of that lore is that like I've already started writing EPs that spin off of this album where we'll take different characters and things that are in this album that
oh my God.
that go into depth and describe.
It's like Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Except more books.
Except more books. Yeah.
And I hope that that's what hooks people.
Yeah.
Because some people are here for the art, the music, for the poetic aspects, and some people just like a good story. But I think that at the end of that music video, the most important thing in the bridge is it's repeating the chorus, and it says that line about being an addict. And then it says to learn is to change. And that's when I start running towards the place where I get transported to the next place. But symbolizing you can spin in circles. You can sit in bitterness. You can sit in victimhood. But the second that line happens, that you realize that to learn is to change, you have now created the energy necessary that can propel you forward to whatever your next door is. You know, one door closes and another door opens. Well, learning what needs to open the next door always comes from learning that it is always necessary to change and grow. It takes time till you get to the next place, but it does happen.
Well, I just feel like if you didn't know already, like, you're making a difference for sure. Like, oh my God. And not even in that specific community of ex-Mormons, but women empowerment and all of it, dude. I feel proud of you and so excited for you.
Thanks.
And
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I think this is a really special project, and I think you're gonna make a huge difference in like so many people's lives. And really, before we became friends, I feel like when I'm watching you on social media or whatever, like there are things that I take away from the things that you post and the things that you share that like really hit. So thank you, and you're doing it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. This was an incredible experience for me. I feel like I've been going in circles for quite a long time as I'm prepping for this next release of music and everything. And you run this podcast so well.
Thank you.
To the listeners listening and supporting her, good job. Keep supporting, because this is a beautiful space that you're creating.
Oh, thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
So for people who want to maybe hear more about your story, where can they find that?
Yeah, you can go to my website, irenesentropy.com, or my story is more so on my Instagram, which is irenes.entropy. And then I'm not really on TikTok anymore. It's just too much for me to handle all the social media. So Instagram for sure. But then Spotify and Apple Music, obviously, you can find Irene's Entropy music. Please subscribe to my YouTube, because that's where all of these videos will be coming out. And I need to build my YouTube base. I have not been on YouTube at all, really. So,
Cool.
Yeah, all the things.
Okay, sweet. Is there anything else you want to plug or talk about before we end?
No, this is perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yay.